Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. So today we're going to be doing a garden tour and we're going to do something a little bit different this time. Somebody asked if I could help share what's kind of going on in my head as I'm thinking about doing my gardening. So I'm going to talk with you a little bit about what I'm seeing in the garden and what some of my next steps are going to be as we look at the plants. So I am Soleil and I garden in the Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and I just want to say thank you to all those new subscribers. Thanks for joining the channel. If you're enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, or even hit the notification bell to get notified anytime a new video comes out. Alright, let's go for a tour. Alright, well we're going to start with one of the areas right now that's just popping that really doesn't need much help at all. I've got some beautiful phlox here that are happening along with my Dianthus, and they are looking fantastic. So this is opening at Pinkadot. It is a Perennial Phlox. I believe it is Hearty from zones 4 to 9. And then next to it we have a, this is a beauty berry. It's the coral berry, and this is a actually light pink colored berry one. So that will be putting out some flowers shortly. And we have some purple coneflower along with the opening act blush pink there. And then in front we have the Patriot Hosta. So again we have a Pinkadot and a blush over here in terms of the garden phlox. And then I just repeated that same pattern over on the other side of the shed, which helps make it look symmetrical and a little bit more orderly and formal. Alright, so over here in the lady garden, things are looking pretty good as well. I think I don't have too much longer until some of the daffodil foliage will need to be cut back. And I actually have just come through here already, and the peonies have had to come out. They were actually right back behind the lady, and they looked absolutely beautiful. But we got an amazing rain, and of course that always knocks down the peony blooms and just smashes them up. So not a lot that I have to do in this garden right now. I do have a new shrub that is back here from last year that I planted, which is the Rainbow Sensation Variegated Weigela. And that one is just starting to put on some new growth. It was definitely being shaded by the peonies, so it's nice to have those out. So it can get the sun that it needs. Okay, now taking a look at the Protege Garden, you'll see I've cut back the Nepeta Walker's Low that's over here. And you may think that this looks a little bit harsh, but that's really how I like to do things. I like to actually take out my shears and just shear these back. Some people will deadhead very small, but I'm a big fan of super chap. Some people call it the Chelsea chap this time of year, getting some things cut back, but I really cut them down pretty significantly. And if you think that I am a hard pruner, check out John Lord's Secret Garden. It's quite amazing to watch how rugged he treats his plants, and he gets away with it, and they look just beautiful. So in this Protege Garden, some of my foxglove are blooming. But one of the things that has happened that I've got my eye on over here is some disease on these foxgloves. And this is likely called rust. And rust is a fungal disease that happens when things get really warm and humid. And so I'm hoping this doesn't spread to anything else. But what I will do with these is, rather than cut them back, I'm going to see if new growth comes out on some of them that is not affected by the rust, and it does look like some of that is happening. If that comes through during maybe the next week or so and looks good, I will leave them, but if not, these will be pulled out and they likely will not even go in the compost pile because I don't want to infect the rest of my garden. Now back here you can see this Salvia is starting to flop over a little bit in the back here, and it's more than halfway through its blooms. It blooms from the bottom up, and you can see this one right here is more than halfway up to the top. And so those are ones that I'm going to be cutting back and doing that hard prune as well. I just love the addition of foxglove throughout the garden, don't you? They just remind me a little bit of fairy tales or something. So Salvia over here is also starting to flap a bit. And so these are also going to get a hard prune, all three of these. And some people would look at these and say, but there's still a little bit of bloom on there. And I agree, so that's why I'm not doing it today, but we'll likely do it within the next few days. And you'll see that many of my hardy geraniums, I believe this is Roseanne or Johnson's Blue. I bought it so long ago I don't recall, but you'll see many of them are in very much full bloom, but they're also starting to get really leggy. So as we go through the garden, I'll be able to show you just how big they've gotten, and then they're starting to flop. So I will literally cut these all the way back to the ground, and they will flush back out and begin blooming again. Okay, the garden at the end of the pool is looking really good. These elephant ears here are doing quite well, and my wave petunias are starting to put out some blooms. These are the ones that I winter sowed. And so pretty soon those will be coming up over the sides with blooms. I planted some geraniums. These were just some clearance geraniums to fill in this bed with a little annual foliage until I find some perennials that I like. And then I got a high voltage rose. And I planted one of those on both sides, and I will show you what those look like out in the front bed, because I have two of them that have started to bloom, and they're pretty gorgeous. Now here's my summer evening hibiscus. This one is Proven Winners, I believe it's called Berry Awesome, or Evening Rose. Evening Rose? Could be Evening Rose. I'm gonna look it up and double check that. And then next to that I have the White Wands Veronica. And all of these flowers that are blooming, the pollinators just love. You can see that little bumblebee there crawling around on it. All right, so let's take a look in the woodland garden now, and I will talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I'm thinking about back here. If you watched my latest video about creating pots, I pulled a lot of violas out, and so those got placed back here. I took all of the blue ones, put them along this row, so it just looks nice and cool and cohesive. And there's not a lot to do in this section either. I'm seeing things looking really good. This penstemon was the one that was in the middle of the path, and so I put it over here, and it's looking a little bit droopy, so I do need to give that some water. So that's something that I'll come back and do soon. So as I'm walking through the garden, I'm just taking notes of things that I need to follow up on. And I find that's one of the easiest ways to get things done effectively. I did a little trimming on this boxwood to make it a little bit more like a tower. That is a tower boxwood. So it will grow fairly conical in shape. And since we last did a tour, I planted an Annabelle hydrangea back here. And this one oftentimes will do a little bit of flopping because the stems are not super strong, but I really like that look, and I've always loved the Annabelle hydrangea, and I think if it flops on top of these hardy geraniums here, these are the Geranium macrorhizum, and just what I call my filler hostas, I don't mind at all, because those aren't the show. Those are, again, just the fluff between the show. You can see I've cut my chives back really hard since the last tour, but they are already coming back and will be quite full probably within a week, so that you won't even be able to tell that they have been cut back. It's quite amazing how fast plants grow. I've also put some of the violas and pansies in this bed that came out of my urns. And I think that makes it look really cheery back here. And those will last for a little while, and then I will cut them back. So I see some of them are getting a little lanky and splayed back there, so I will trim those back to help them mound out again. Now over here we have another geranium, and you can see in the center, while it looks beautiful, the center is starting to spread out and splay. And so I will just be cutting back all of the foliage and all of these blooms and composting it. Now you can also make a flower arrangement as well. But I do go through a lot of material in my garden in terms of the pruning that I do. And so that's why I have such large compost bins and such a big composting system. I'm also noticing that this daffodil foliage right here is starting to brown over, so I'll watch that over the next few days and see if I can clip that down. And that will help it to look more well kept and a little less wild. You can see the liatris over here is starting to get much taller. The buds are forming on it, and it will probably be in bloom within the next week or so. Everything seems to be on a little bit of an accelerated schedule here. Are you guys experiencing that as well? I'd be interested to hear in your comments. It's like we had a really weird spring, and then it got really warm, and so now everything seems to be a couple weeks ahead, even though it was a couple weeks behind. It's kind of odd. To be interested in what your experience has been. This birch leaf Spirea here, this is the You Glow Girl kind, and I just love the leaves and the color on it, and it's definitely getting bigger. It should get to 3 to 4 feet high and wide, so I'm looking forward to that up against the fence there. All the Dianthus in this garden bed are still looking really lovely, and the heuchera, now that we've gotten some rain, is also starting to become much more full. I would like to, one of the things that I have noted about this arrangement of heucheras is that I would like to replace one of these dark green, probably this one right here, with one of the light green ones over there. That way none of them are completely grouped together, and it will just look even more colorful, and I think that would be nice. My white clematis here, this is the Duchess of Edinburgh, and it is blooming now. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so cheery. And I have already cut back the salvia along this row here. Those were the Violet Riot variety from Proven Winners. And I want you to take a note of how quickly this sun container has flushed out since I made them. I will link a video to my planting of those as well for those of you who did not see it. But there's some wave petunias in there that are getting ready to bloom on the right, and in the middle is the hot pink geranium, and then we have a sweet potato vine by Proven Winners. Not a lot in that bed right there that I think needs to be addressed right now. We'll walk over to the fountain area. The Midnight Masquerade Penstemon are putting on some blooms, and they look really pretty. I love that color, and I love the foliage. And as soon as those stop blooming, those are also going to get cut back right to the ground. I'll leave the very bottom leaves on those, so I have 2 of those ones over here as well. And that will just help with making more of a bushy base, and then it will flower again. And look at these Veronicas. I'm sorry, these are the Penstemons. These are called Dusky Violet. This Penstemon I just got from a local nursery. and I got 3 4-inch pots, and they are brilliant. Now I'm going to be watching these allium back here because they are starting to put on their seed heads. So I'll be watching those to see how soon they start to dry out, because I don't want them dropping all of their seeds in the same spot. I'd like to collect them and try to grow some more from seed into some pots. And I do want to show you my roses here. I have 2 Oscar Peterson roses, one on either side of this path here, that are starting to bloom, and they just brighten up this area with their nice white blooms. And then I have 2 roses behind those, which are all the rage, and I just have 1 flower so far. It's a little behind the other rose, but they're really pretty. And the salvia in this garden are looking great, and they're going to cover up that foliage from those Gigantium bulbs as it dies back, so that will be nice. I've been trying to keep up with my garden tasks, so things are looking fairly good right now. But in the front, there's definitely a little bit more work to do. I have been cutting back my sedums so that they also do not splay out when they get the flower heads on them, because they get very heavy by fall. So this helps to keep them compact, and they will put on some more growth. This Clematis has been a blooming sensation this year, and you can see lots of seed heads starting to form, but at the same time there's tons of buds that are still left on it, so it's not done. It's definitely not done. Lots of new flowers still yet to come. Alright, I think you'll be interested to see how severely I have pruned back my burning bush that I told you I was going to trim back. So I trimmed it down to the bottom of this window. I may even cut it back further, but I wanted to leave some green growth on it so that it could continue to feed itself, because the leaves are what helps to continue to process all of the sun and provide the nutrients and the chlorophyll that the plant needs to continue to grow. So the new bed is looking good. I'm happy with the way it turned out. And I want to show you how tall the liatris are now. These are definitely, some of them are up past my knees. They just sprung right up after we got that recent rain. And I'm going to also take you on the other side to show you what this looks like, because the pom-pom pink Dianthus that I put between each boxwood, I just love the punch of color that it gives, and the layered look. So you can see with 3 different layers, that really makes it stand out and looks well planned. Whereas I would say I didn't necessarily plan that. It kind of happened over time. And as I watched for how the boxwoods were growing, I realized I would still have several years before they grew so close to each other that nothing could grow in between them. So I thought it would be lovely to plant those. And I think I got each one of those for a couple dollars a piece, because they were not looking so great when I bought them. Alright, so now I'm going to show you a little bit of what's happening in this bed. And this bed still needs some work right now. I have started trimming back my Baptisia. I still have some over here, but I cut it all down on this side. So if you recall, I had some on both sides, symmetrical on either side of this tree. And I have done my hard prune all the way back down to the base. And that's what the bottom looks like. So again, a lot of material to go into my compost bin. But I don't mind. So this is one of the high voltage roses. See if I can get a close-up here for you. It's a really nice creamy buttery yellow, and I like the light color of that because almost everything else in this bed is very dark colored. And I've started cutting back the salvia as well. All of the mums I have cut about in half, and again I just have gotten out my hedge pruners and just clipped them all back, just sheared them. Same thing with this salvia here, you can see, and it'll look ratty for a few days, but that's about it. Then you'll start to see the leaves coming out, and you can already start to see, I just did this yesterday, you can already start to see some of the baby leaves, you know, popping through. So it will take no time at all. Again, this is not for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart, right? But I just have so much to do in the garden that I find it's easier to cut things back really hard. The peonies are actually 2/3 gone. They still look beautiful, but these are the white ones. These are the Festiva Maxima, and they're the only ones that are left. I have a couple dark pink ones on the other side that hopefully you can see there. But all of the light pink ones are finished. We got a really nice hard rain as soon as they came into full bloom, which seems to be the case with peonies, doesn't it? Okay, so in this bed I also did a similar thing with all my Dianthus. I cut all of the flowers that were kind of faded way back, and I have lots of new growth that looks much healthier, and we'll be getting some nice new blooms soon. And then in this bed I've also planted some new powwow pink, candy pink, I think it's powwow candy pink in this bed. Those are echinacea flowers. And then one of the salvia, that's the Mystic Spires salvia that I planted in the 2 urns in my last video. And the elderberry is going strong. It still has some buds yet to bloom, and some are expiring, but it is gorgeous. I can only imagine the impact and the beauty that will bring when it grows even larger. So this year what I'm thinking is when these blooms are done, I'm going to try to kind of keep this shape, but cut it back and keep it a little bit low so that the right side of it can catch up to the left side, and that will also help to keep it lower than the juniper that's behind it, because I would like to have the elderberry still be shorter than the juniper as it grows. So I also planted some more of the Mystic Spires salvia up front here, and then on the back side of this bed, which faces my neighbor's yard, I thought I would try something new that I haven't before. These are called Champagne Bubbles Poppies, and they have lots of buds. I wasn't sure exactly what color they would be. I looked them up. I guess they're going to be kind of yellow and orange, and this one does have 1 flower. The flower's really pretty. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be okay with the color of them, but I'm going to let them bloom and see what they do and decide from there. For now, they are filling some space in this bed, and they were only $2 a piece, so it's worth it. Okay, so over here in my other front garden, I am also watching these Gigantium. They are a little bit further behind the ones in the back because this is the north side of the house, so they bloomed a little bit later. They get a little bit less heavy sun, and I will be trying to collect those seeds as well. And give myself as much chance as possible to get more of those because I really love the look, and I'd like to put some of them in other areas of my yard. And I'm just loving these blue Veronicas, you guys. Look at this. Look at the blue. It's so blue. Probably one of the few like true blue flowers, at least according to my eyes anyways. Something fun also that's coming up in this bed right now are these tiny alliums right here. So I can't wait to show you. I think these are drumstick alliums, but I'm gonna have to go back and look to check out what those are. So this bed is also getting pretty full of strappy old foliage from daffodils, and it is starting to brown up. You don't want to cut it back until it's at least halfway brown. So I'm getting pretty close. And then I'm going to cut it back. And I've already cut back these mums, cut them back by half. And then this allium right here, this is the Dianthus, and also called the Ivory Queen. This one is definitely getting closer to having its seed pods ready for harvesting. So I'm going to be watching those, definitely. And just look at these light pink colored Salvia. I cut back 2 of the purple ones that were right here in the middle. And I cut them back hard so it makes this bed look a little bit more pink. I'll stand back so you can see. Before with the 2 purple ones, it had a tendency to look more purple, and now I feel like it looks a little bit more blue and pink. So I love just kind of how the garden changes over the course of the year. So lots of alliums to be watching right now, and if you haven't cut back your mums yet or pinched them back, most people say to do so before the 4th of July. That's at least in some of these colder zones, like the zone that I live in, which is 5B. And so I highly recommend that you take a look at them because it helps keep them bushier, keeps them from flapping, and allows you to even get more blooms out of them than you might otherwise if you didn't clip them back. So I have to decide what to do with this front basket because the violas in front here are starting to look a little tired. So I need to get something that is a spiller, a kind of maybe a vining plant of some sort that really likes the shade, and pull those out and put that in. And all of these pansies in these pots are starting to get a bit leggy, so I'm going to have to pull those out and replant them, or if they're too flappy, get rid of them. Like, I probably won't replant these because they are so floppy and long. I could cut them back and plant them, but I probably will not. This Crusted surf fern is looking really pretty. It's doing super well in its location. I overwintered that in the pot this last year. And I'm loving this combination of the Autumn Frost Hosta with the blue pansies and the boxwood. And my tuberous begonia is actually starting to flower here. Look at that. Wow, that is a huge bloom. So big. This pink sparkler, let's see, what is this? This is a Spirea. It's a pink sparkler Spirea, and so it is starting to have its flowers dry up, and so it's time for me to do a little trim on this. I also really need to shape this boxwood that's by it. It's that time of year in June. I like to shape my boxwoods. I will try to do a video on that because I have quite a few boxwoods, and I know some people are intimidated by that, and it can be a challenge, especially if your boxwoods start to get older and they get more dense and they're maybe not letting light down into the center anymore. So doing proper pruning definitely extends the life of your plant and can make them much happier. These hostas down here at the end, oh my goodness, the Francis William, and I think it's a humpback whale in the back. Look at those. They are ginormous. I have got to spray these. I've got to. It's been a couple weeks since the last time I sprayed them with liquid fence. So I tried to keep the deer and the rabbits. Here's another Spirea that I'm going to come in and shape. And then I'm also noticing that some of my hostas are putting up flowers. Some of them I don't mind flowering, but others of them I will cut back. So you can see I have a big spire over here of a flower on that blue hosta, and I will come through and cut that off. The other thing that's stunning to me right now is the blue fothergilla, the blue shadow fothergilla. Just look how blue it's become. It just almost glows. I mean, you think hostas are blue, and then you put it next to a blue hosta, and it's even bluer because the wax is stronger, I think, on these leaves. Beautiful. Love it. And I'm also noticing in this bed I have a couple geraniums that I'm going to have to come through and cut back because they are getting so large. When they come back, they will actually stay smaller because it will be warmer, and so they won't actually grow quite as quickly either. And then I'm also going to have to shape up these two boxwoods. And look at that black lace elderberry there. That one's still blooming too. So gorgeous. I'm so glad I planted those in my yard. And you can see though that the leaves on this one, again, they're not as black as the other ones. Just doesn't get as much sun here. Okay, I'm just going to show you a couple more things that are up on my deck. And in the Protege here, we have some amazing kale. It's probably about 30 inches tall. I have tomatoes that are starting to form on my tomato plants. Can you see them down there? In addition to that, I have strawberries. I don't know if you can see the red back there, but it's there. There are strawberries back in there. Trying to protect them from the chipmunks and everything else that seems to want to eat things before I can. My raspberry bushes that are on the deck here are getting blooms, and gonna make berries on those. And then I have some elephant ears also up here. I think these are colocasia type or alocasia type. I forget the difference. Somebody's gonna know, so please tell me in the comment. But this is my first time growing these as well, so I thought I'd try both types. I've got the coffee cup ones that are by the pool, and then these here on the deck. I have some more strawberries over here that are going really well. These are the Buried Treasures by Proven Winners, and they have gorgeous blooms on them. Let's see, those are almost like double blooms. And then I have some pink ones over here. Those are really pretty, and they're starting to get berries on them as well. My Succulent Planter, this was done in collaboration with the Next Gardener, and it's still looking really lush and healthy and getting ready to pull out some blooms, I think. And my fig plant, I'm probably going to have to pot this up, so that's what I'm thinking about that one. Pot it up, get it in the next size. My canna is looking great in this pot, along with some more tuberous begonias. And these are a different kind. These are pink. And so I'm looking forward to seeing those bloom and what those look like when they're in bloom. I have some geraniums here that they called hot pink. I feel like they look more red, so I might plant these out in the garden, but I don't know, they're pretty alongside of the deck here for me to look at when I sit up here. And then I believe this is a mandevilla. I got this from my mother-in-law, but she could not tell me what it was. So if you can confirm that this is a mandevilla, I would appreciate it. It looks like it's gonna bloom for me, so I'm excited for that. And then from here you can see the foxgloves and the geraniums and how they intermix. Thanks everybody for watching today. I hope you're not too sad that you asked for what's going on inside this brain, but I hope you enjoyed me sharing a little bit about my thought process as I go through the garden. Thanks so much for joining me, and see you next time. Bye!